Come, Holy Spirit, and kindle the fire that is in us. Take our lips and speak through them. Take our hearts and see through them. Take our souls and set them on fire. Amen. Well, St. Bartholomew's Day. We got the bouncy house. I bet St. Bartholomew had never envisioned a bouncy house. Well, one thing's for certain. Nobody bothered to call the bishop. The people who founded St. Bartholomew's Parish in 1835 didn't take the time to secure episcopal permission to do so. They didn't do a survey. They didn't take a poll. They didn't do a demographic analysis of the neighborhood. A group of devoted Episcopalians from different parishes simply came together in faith and decided that they were called to start a new church. Paying $5 whole for rent, they met in Military Hall in the Bowery for divine worship on Sunday, January 11th, 1835, and then again the next Sunday. And on Monday, January 19th, they held elections for the wardens. They believed the city of New York needed a new church, and by God, literally, they started one. And it might be said that St. Bart's hasn't paid much attention to the rules or bishops ever since. Including this one. In the 1890s, Rector David Hummel Greer preached a sermon in which he proclaimed, "The greatest benefactor of the human race is the one who gives the noblest visions to it." Greer and his gang offered noble visions. He not only talked the talk, he walked the walk. Through his servant leadership, he made St. Bart's a home of liberal Christianity. Now, not liberal in the political sense, but liberal in the sense of a broad, inclusive Christianity. He led St. Bart's in welcoming countless refugees to New York, and during his tenure here, services were conducted in 6 different languages every Sunday, along with occasional services in Turkish and Persian. Greer even learned Yiddish so that he could be more effective in his ministry. Talk about audacious ministry. Talk about audacious mission. The parish provided outreach and legal aid to 4,000 Chinese immigrants a year and provided a spiritual home for thousands of people who couldn't find a warm welcome anywhere else in this city. Now, more than 100 years later, St. Bart's continues this tradition of radical welcome by providing straight, gay, lesbian, and transgendered people a safe place to grow and to be in the Christian faith. People of every income level, people of every educational achievement, people of every race and nation are welcomed in this great and holy space. And along the way, a succession of rectors bent the church canon just a little bit. They offered communion to everyone of every age and every circumstance in an attempt to open the doors of this church as wide as possible. What would Jesus do? Well, we may not always know, but we're pretty sure Jesus would love on the people he created and would make room for God's beloved creation. It was believed then, as it is to this very day, that folks on a pilgrimage to God don't need any more roadblocks than the ones which already exist. We're working hard to put aside the roadblocks here. Those of you who were told you are not good enough, that you are not white or black or brown or green or purple enough, that you're not theologically correct enough, that you're not rich enough, that you're not straight enough, that you're not whatever enough. This. This is your place. This is where you belong. This is where you're welcome. Jesus said, "The greatest among you must become like the youngest, and the leader like the one who serves." Today we're celebrating the feast of St. Bartholomew, the saint after whom we are named and who, truth be told, we don't really know very much about. Episcopalians may not remember the saints with quite the same intensity as our Roman Catholic friends, but we do try to take as examples leaders of the faith who have gone before us and lift them up as examples for our own lives. We do know that Bartholomew is listed among the original 12 disciples. We believe he may have written a gospel. We don't have a copy of it. We know he's the patron saint of plasterers, although why he's the patron saint of plasterers remains a mystery, but it may be a good thing for a church like ours that has a lot of construction in its future. The ancient sources suggest that Bartholomew was actually Nathanael bar Ptolemy, the very Nathanael who was Philip's friend, the one who skeptically wondered, can anything good come from Nazareth? Philip invites Bartholomew to come and see, and after a brief encounter with Jesus, he exclaims, "Rabbi, you're the Son of God. You're the King of Israel." And Jesus responds, "You'll see greater things than these." Bartholomew truly did see greater things, including the resurrected Christ himself walking along the Sea of Tiberias. What we do know is that Bartholomew is our namesake, and we lovingly refer to this church as St. Bart's because there's something about the informality of it and the warmth of it which communicates an important part of who we are and who we always hope we will be. Jesus said, "The greatest among you must become like the youngest, and the leader like the one who serves." This morning, there are dozens of people who will be standing at tables in the parish hall after this service to talk with you about ways that you can become more deeply engaged in this community of faith. There are dozens of things you can do, and a whole bunch of things you can just try on for size, see if you like it. You can assist with the altar guild, you can be an usher, you can help us connect newcomers to this community. You can assist those in need in our soup kitchen, our pantry, or our shelter. You can be a part of a 20s, 30 group, a 40s, 50s group. I don't know if we have a 60s, 70s group, but we should have. You can find a place where you can connect. Now, I know some of you here are already doing so many things, you hardly have time to turn around. And some of you just need to take a little breather. But some of you are just waiting to be asked, waiting to discover a ministry which would strengthen your connection to God and to this church. These ministries don't just benefit other folks. This is for you and your own soul's sake, too. Now, the best leaders have always been the ones who didn't depend upon their seniority. The best leaders have always been the ones who didn't act as though they were all that impressed with themselves. The best leaders have a way of making every single person they encounter feel valued and loved. The best leaders know the greatest benefactor of the human race is the one who gives the noblest visions to it. And they love offering noble visions. Now, there's an old story that I like. It kind of comes out of the monastic tradition. They have such great wisdom stories. And there's this old monastery tucked away in the middle of a beautiful forest. And for many years, people would make a significant detour, and it was really required if you wanted to find this place because it was out of the way. The peaceful spirit of the monastery was healing for the soul. But in recent years, fewer and fewer people were making their way to the monastery. The monks had grown a little jealous and petty in their relationships with one another, and the animosity was being sensed by those who visited. And then fewer people came, and the monks were sensitive about that as well. And the abbot of the monastery was deeply distressed by what was happening, and he poured out his heart to his good friend Jeremiah. Now, Jeremiah was a wise old Jewish rabbi, and having heard the abbot's tale of woe, he asked if he could offer a suggestion. Please do, responded the abbot. Anything you can offer. Jeremiah said that he had received a vision, an important and holy vision, and the vision was this: the Messiah was among the ranks of the monks. The abbot was flabbergasted. One among his own was truly the Messiah. Who could it be? He knew it wasn't himself, but who? And he raced back to the monastery and shared this exciting news with his fellow monks. And the monks grew silent as they looked into each other's faces. Was this the Messiah? Was this the Messiah? From that day forward, the mood in the monastery changed. Joseph and Ivan started talking again, neither wanting to be guilty of slighting the Messiah. Pierre and Nabu left behind their frosty anger and sought out each other's forgiveness. The monks began to serve one another and look for opportunities to assist one another, seeking healing and forgiveness wherever offense had been given. As one traveler, then another, found their way to the monastery, word soon spread about the remarkable spirit of the place. People once again took the journey to the monastery and found themselves renewed and transformed. All because those monks knew the Messiah was among them. Now, I believe this with all my heart, that the Messiah is among us. I believe God is revealing God's self in fresh and remarkable ways in this place. Over this next year, we'll engage in strategic planning to better understand what God is calling us to do, and we'll immerse that process in prayer. We will hear what God is whispering into the ears of people who've loved this congregation and have been here for many, many years. And we will hear what God is telling people who are here this morning, perhaps for the very first time. The Apostle Paul wrote to those feisty Corinthians, "We are fools for the sake of Christ. But you are wise in Christ. We are weak, but you are strong. You are held in honor, but we in disrepute. To the present hour we are hungry and thirsty. We are poorly clothed and beaten and homeless, and we grow weary from the work of our own hands. When reviled, we bless. When persecuted, we endure. When slandered, we speak kindly." Fools for the sake of Christ. You see, Paul understood spiritual leadership was a real and crucial gift, and he knew it was always costly. It did not come without a price because it was of such precious value. In his autobiography, A Life in Our Times, economist John Kenneth Galbraith wrote about the devotion of Emily Wilson, his longtime family housekeeper. It had been a very long day, and Galbraith came home and asked Emily to fend off all of his telephone calls so he could just take a nap, just get a break, a rest. And 10 minutes later, the phone rang, and it was Lyndon Johnson on the telephone calling from the White House. "Get me Ken Galbraith. This is Lyndon Johnson." And Emily replied, "He's sleeping, Mr. President. He said not to disturb him. Well, wake him up. I want to talk to him. And there was a pause. No, Mr. President, I work for him and not for you. Later, when Galbraith returned the president's call, an impressed Johnson told him, "Tell that woman I want her working here in the White House." There is nothing quite like that kind of extraordinarily loyal servant leadership offered by a person who seeks only to dependably and devotedly serve. And everyone should be able to deeply appreciate and respect that kind of loyal and faithful service. I don't know if we will serve thousands of immigrants or lead worship in 6 different languages. But what I do believe is this: our best days are not behind us. Helen Keller, that great witness, that great activist, once wrote, "No pessimist ever discovered the secrets of the stars, or sailed to an uncharted land, or opened a new heaven to the human spirit." Simplicity and sincerity may have been Bartholomew's greatest gifts. In fact, they may have been his only qualifications. And of course, he was called. Those may well be our greatest gifts and our only qualifications as well: simplicity and faithfulness, and of course, being called.